Hi everyone, welcome back to the Watch Insider. My name is Brian and thanks for logging on. I'm joined tonight by Tim Masso.
Welcome guys, thanks for joining us.
And we've got an exciting show for you guys tonight. So Tim, why don't we get started with a quick wrist check, even though it looks like you have nothing on the wrist.
And I'm going to put this on my wrist because it belongs there. This is the Journe LeCoultre 2006 Master Minute Repeater. Limited edition of 200 pieces, open dial in titanium, grade 5, 15-day power reserve, torque meter assembly, minute repeater, visible gongs, strike barrel, rack and snail. In fact, you can see the whole thing. We may as well just sound off. And since you guys have been so nice to join us this evening, I'm going to set it to 12:59 so we get maximum repetition.
Beautiful. So this is your next grail-worthy piece. You've been lusting after this one for a while now.
Oh yeah. I still am.
It's so long when we do that. It's like a long, awkward silence.
You pay a lot of money for that long, awkward silence.
You do. So anyways, I am wearing today a titanium Seamaster 300M. This is a watch that I've definitely brought onto the show before. It's one of my favorite pieces. It's all titanium. It has a bright blue dial. I am a big fan of the highly luminescent markers, and you know, this is the kind of watch that I really think that you can just wear all the time. And you know, I'm a big believer in having a watch that you can really dress up or dress down, and if you were only going to have one watch, to me, this is the kind of watch that you would only need one. And you know, it's not an inexpensive watch, but it's definitely you know, a workhorse piece that, you know, I'll never get rid of.
I'll also say that the satin finish bezel with the lacquer inlays is absolutely gorgeous and well keyed to the dial. The dial is explosive, the bezel a bit more muted, and it's a good balance. Well done. And, by the way, guys, nice and slim, these things make for an excellent dress watch. You may not think it seeing it on screen, but it's actually reasonably sized, and I've owned one in steel, in this case size, for a long time, and there was a time when this might have been an aggressive tool or sports-style watch. Today, it's kind of a two-way swing. This will work either way, business suit or bathing suit.
Thank you.
Nice piece.
So, for today's show, we want to talk a little bit about, exactly as I had just said, watches that you can, you know, wear from the, you know, beach to a tuxedo. So watches that you can wear all the time. And we're going to talk a little bit how we think that that's a new or a growing trend that you're going to start seeing in the industry. And as always, guys, please feel free to ask us any questions that you might have. Wednesdays are a great time for us to answer questions about watches that you're looking at, thinking about, or just, you know, random things that you want to know from me and Tim.
What? I was playing with the minute repeater. Guys, we have a great offer on the table tonight. Two things I'm going to give to you. I mentioned that there is an Oris giveaway coming. It's here. Check the description box. Click the link to enter. This is the Oris Arctics Audi Sport GMT, a gorgeous 44mm stainless steel race style, no nonsense, Arabic numeral, satin concentric brush dial, all arounder, 100 meters water resistant, so equally appropriate at Daytona Speedway or at Daytona Beach. And I'm going to give you an Oris field compass with it. I'm going to try to keep these things reasonably distant from each other because I've shown you the watch. Let me show you the compass now. Cameraman, follow me in. And this is about the size and shape of the new Richard Mille. I can save you a lot of money because you're going to get this for free. This is a marine grade.
Yeah, you save yourself about $1 million.
I mean, honestly, I knew Marines who came out of Marine OCS and their field compasses were not this nice. So they'd be glad to have it. You're going to have it for free. And frankly, like Brian said, you get the same big block without the cost of the Richard Mille. And honestly, this has integrity. I'm not sure that does. So you're going to win this with the Oris. There's nothing that thematically links the two. I just want to give you two cool things to add value.
Awesome.
Helps if you're an Audi fan too.
It does. Well, did you do a close-up of the piece?
Oh yeah. We did one. We did it last night, but now you can actually win this. $2,500 value. This is a GMT, so it's not just a cool trackside timer, but it actually has that second time zone with a bidirectional rotating double/Audi Sport bezel. So you've got that second 24-hour time zone. If you can't watch Le Mans live, or if you're in a different time zone, you need to know where they are in southern France at any given time so you can catch the start and the end, because let's face it, these days, very few of us have the endurance to watch it 24 hours live online. Although if you do, I'll be there. Oris Arctic's Audi Sport GMT. We're giving it away.
Quick question from Eddie Landsberg, Tim and Brian. Can you make joining the Watchbox Live group on Facebook as a way to get more entries in the raffle? I think that's like above my pay grade. I don't even know if I can answer that question.
Yeah, honestly, we've got our own, I think we've got a Facebook page, I'm not sure. But if we haven't deleted it, but the bottom line is,
Harrison, we have a Facebook page, don't we? We're going to get back to Eddie Landsberg on that question.
Yeah, we're definitely going to mention it. He has a Facebook page for us. If you want the fraternity of an independent Watchbox fan group, that's a great place to get started.
Awesome. So keep the questions coming. We're going to get started with some watches on the table. A lot of these are watches that we have in stock that I just think are really cool, interesting, and really just want to talk about them. The first watch on the table, why don't we get started with the IWC?
Yeah, why not?
So this IWC, I think, is an amazing watch. We've had a few of them over the years. Tim will do a close-up of it. It's the IWC Aqua Timer Vintage. This was a watch that came out in 2008. It was a vintage-inspired piece from the original Aqua Timer. And what I absolutely love about this watch, number one, is that when IWC did this in 2008, it was before everybody else was doing vintage-inspired pieces. So they were ahead of the curve, and that, I think that they executed the watch really nicely. And, another thing that I really like about the watch is that it's not just an exact duplicate of the first one. So it's not a photocopy. They took the original sort of as inspiration, of course, and, they made fine-tunements, they adjusted it, they made it a little bit bigger, and overall, I think that they executed it perfectly. And, back to Beach to Tux, to me, this is an example of a watch that I think that you can dress up, and in this day and age, obviously dress down, but you can also dress it up. And, from a value perspective, I think that this is going to be in particular an IWC that really does extraordinarily well over time. And it's definitely a hidden sleeper because you really don't see too many of them floating around.
It also draws nicely on the original 1967 812 reference Aqua Timer by returning the internal rotating dive bezel in a wonderful unidirectional ratcheting form that I absolutely love because it opens up the dial, lets it breathe. It reduces the size of the external bezel, which creates a much lighter, airier, and more versatile aesthetic. Like Brian said, this is not necessarily the hardcore, no-holds-barred tool-style watch that IWC was making in full swing by 2008. When this model, the 3231, debuted, Georges Kern's design vision had already started to take over the manufacturer. This is almost a little bit of a throwback to the pre-Georges Kern era in that it is undoubtedly a utility watch of superb capabilities, but it has that second gear to dial it down when you want to. And you can see on my 16-centimeter wrist, I don't have a big wrist, but this 42-millimeter watch wears reasonably slim, all things considered, with its manufacturer movement. And you could absolutely wear this with a suit. There's no reason you couldn't. The bigger your wrist, the better it looks, too, as it appears flatter as the strap broadens out. Also, IWC
they're the best. These rubber straps are amazing. I mean, they're super soft, they're supple. It's a rubber strap that really almost fits like the way that like a calfskin strap would feel. Like it form fits to your wrist. It's not rigid. And, I've always said, even when we had a more modern Aqua Timer on the, on the show last time, I just think that they're some of the most comfortable rubber straps that are on the market.
And it does nicely emulate the look of a 1960s Tropic rubber strap with that crosshatch pattern on the top. And then you have the invert diamond pattern relief on the bottom to make it thinner, more supple, and also vent the wrist a little bit better. This is a very comfortable strap. And the nice thing is, it's thin, it's black, it's discreet. You could easily wear it formally with this strap. No need to upgrade to leather. This is perfect.
Yeah, so big fan of the watch. I was very excited when the watch came in. And it's one of those pieces, as I said, you really don't see them come around too often, and when they do, they sell very quickly. And I thought it was a good watch to bring on the show for somebody that's looking for a great all-around, utilitarian piece that's off the beaten path. So,
yeah,
keep the questions coming, guys. We're going to start on another watch. You know, it's a watch that, I don't know if we've had this exact one on the show before, maybe, but I'm sure, you know, it's an FP Journe, so we've definitely had them before. This is a watch that's actually grown on me over time. It's the FP Journe Octasport. I wasn't always the biggest fan of this watch, not for the aesthetics, but more because of the taper between the bracelet and the case. But as I've had a chance to have the watch more on the wrist and as time has gone on, it's actually really grown on me considerably. In particular, the aluminum version, which has long been discontinued in favor of titanium, I really like, just because you really don't see any other watches out there on the market in this sort of material and also with this color. You see a lot of black titanium watches, but you see no aluminum watches. And even more special is the fact that the movement of this watch is made out of aluminum. And the Octasport has actually been discontinued by FP Journe. So these watches are quickly getting dried out of the market. I'm sure you'll see a new sport piece coming from them in the near future. But as it stands now, you know, these watches are really, you know, no longer available. And I think that you're going to, you know, look back and, you know, see that in particular, these sport pieces start doing extraordinarily well over time. Just because, as we said, guys want to be able to buy a watch that they can wear all the time, and this certainly fits the bill.
I'll also say that these are long discontinued. The aluminum Octasport was part of a family made from 2012 to 2014, and you always know the difference between the titanium line Sport and the original aluminum, because the aluminum is a silvery matte sheen that you see here, and then it's more of a dark anthracite in titanium. So though the lines of the case haven't changed and the titanium watch still uses the aluminum movement, you can easily discern the darker metal, the titanium, the subsequent and more numerous watch, from the earlier and scarcer aluminum timepieces. And FP Journe ultimately stopped making these watches, not because there were quality control issues, just because it was a pain in the butt. They were going through a lot of tooling, and frankly, they weren't producing them as quickly as he wanted. So that kind of problem for the watchmaker always becomes an asset for the collector. Just a cool watch, and it's feather light. It's unnervingly light. Even compared to this titanium watch, the aluminum watch is stupid light. It's under 60 grams. I've weighed these.
Yeah, so as I said, it's a watch that has grown on me considerably, even over the last several months. And this is I think it's, you know, as you guys all know, we hoard FP Journes, and this is, I think, the last Octasport in aluminum that we have, so I'm going to definitely miss it when the watch goes.
So a question from B and S, is aluminum hard to work? Well, here's the thing. It's difficult to work well. There are a lot of materials, rose gold, tantalum, aluminum. They're not necessarily the hardest on tools, although tantalum is very hard on tools, but sometimes materials that have non-linear handling qualities. For instance, you'll apply a lot of pressure and then they'll bend or they'll crack, or they'll do things that aren't simply steel. And the further you get away from the characteristics of steel or the softness of gold, the more difficult things become. So these metals with unusual modulus become real problems, especially when they have to look a certain way. It's one thing to make a rough-hewn piece out of aluminum. It's another thing to make it millimetrically perfect, finish it perfectly, and put a luxury price on it. If it's too slow, whether you're dealing with silicon at Patek Philippe or aluminum at FP Journe, ultimately you're either going to see the model marginalized or the material changed.
Watch Doctor Tim O'Brien, what would your preference, white Nautilus 5711 or blue dial? For me personally, the blue dial. I'm somewhat of a purist in that regard, even though I'm not really a purist, but I just think that the blue dial meshes better with the watch itself. The white is definitely a little bit more sporty, but I don't think that the sportiness of the dial lends itself to that watch. I think that the white stick looked a lot better when they did it on the 5980.
Okay, I guess I'm gonna be a little bit different here, because I normally love blue dials, and ordinarily I would say I probably prefer the blue, but having recently filmed a Versus series with the silver dial Nautilus, I could not believe how much I preferred it to the blue. It's easier to see. I feel that the dial pops more. I think that there's a little bit more coherence about it because of the way the silver-white dial flows kind of into the similar sheen of the steel. You wind up with a watch that looks very different from the blue, and functionally it's an easier watch for me to read at a glance at least, and I do think you get a more summery, maybe even more casual aesthetic out of it. I think blue is maybe a bit more New York and the white is a bit more Miami. I've kind of split my time between the two, and now I find myself in Philadelphia.
Who agrees that Tim is actually very much Miami?
Come on. Yeah, I like the silver. I'll go with that.
Awesome. So speaking of blue dials, I brought in the show a 15400 blue. So this is not really a super rare dinosaur, but a rare dinosaur these days. So the 15400 blue dial is the 41 millimeter stainless steel Royal Oak with the blue. So this watch for the last several years is relegated to being an AP boutique dial piece. So it's a watch that can only be purchased at the AP boutiques. It's a watch that, years back, you had the blue, silver, black dial, silver and black being available at retailers, blue being a boutique-only watch. Back then it wasn't really in as much demand because you couldn't get a discount on it. And now they're impossible to get, trading for, well over what the retail price was. So it's a testament to how well AP's doing, how well they're controlling the supply and demand worldwide. And I think it's an all-around great watch. There's a lot of comparisons that go on between this watch and the 15202 Jumbo. The Jumbo really being like I'd say, direct 5711 comparison watch. But as things go, the Jumbo fits me a lot better. The 41 millimeter Royal Oaks tend to be a little bit big for my wrist. I think that as a watch, while it's a 41 millimeter, it fits more like a 42 or 43 millimeter watch, so it's a little bit big on me. As much as I would love them to fit, on me they just don't. So it's hard for me to sort of wear the watch. But overall, it's an amazing watch, and I think that this is an example of a watch that back years ago when somebody said, I'm just going to pay up to get the blue, even though there was a discount available in the silver or black, I think that they made a right choice.
Unlike the Nautilus, I would take this one in blue because I've experienced the silver dial 15400, and I have to say that there is so little contrast between the white gold indices and hands and the silver base that it becomes a borderline non-functional watch, and unlike this unreadable JLC minute repeater I'm wearing, it doesn't chime the time. The blue 15400 is absolutely the one I would want to own. This is a gorgeous watch.
Cole Obsidian. AP themselves confirmed to me blue dials will be sold via ADs as of this year as they have improved the defect rate. I mean, that would be amazing if that's true, and we will definitely let you know as an AP retailer, but, I can't see getting any blue dial Royal Oaks anytime soon.
Translation, you're going to get one.
Yeah, maybe. I don't think so. But anyways, amazing watch, and I just thought it was good to bring on the show.
We've got a completely different kind of blue watch on the table tonight, and I'll let you choose which one we go for, but there are other ways to get your blue dial fix. Very different ways.
I just realized I brought a lot of blues onto the table. So,
it's the thing these days.
I've never brought a Bell & Ross on the show, but I felt like it was a good time. So here we have a BRO 392. And, Bell & Ross is a brand that, I think for the most part doesn't get enough credit because every single year they come out with great watches. It's become a much more value-centric brand, I would say, as the prices of other brands have gone up. They've really kept their pricing down and have stayed competitive. This watch right here, when the BRO 392 came out, these square watches, I mean, it was like the watch. Like, they were hotter than hot. And in particular, I would say, to me, like almost the peak of that was this blue ceramic piece, because this was a limited edition watch. They were impossible to get. They were utilizing ceramic, I would say, before a lot of other brands really got into it, especially colored ceramic. And I think that this is one of the most beautifully executed watches that they've done. I've, for many years been a fan of the brand, and I think that their vintage pieces don't get enough credit. But as a brand, I think that watch collectors or watch consumers don't necessarily, I feel like, view Bell & Ross in the regard that it should, because they make great watches at a good price point.
A couple of interesting things about Bell & Ross. In the early days, all of the Bell & Ross watches were made by Journe of Germany. From 92 to 2002, they were made by Journe. After 2002, they opened up a Swiss manufacturer, but Bell & Ross has always been Parisian-based. They are a Paris-based company owned by Chanel, with the result that they are principally a design house, and they do have a shocking range of prices. You can get one of the vintage watches with automatic movement for under $2,000 today, or there's the BRX1 series over $20,000, which is a shocking range for a company that probably finds its wheelhouse between $3,000 and $5,000. $30,000, and that's where you'll find watches like this BR0392. The other thing I appreciate about Bell & Ross is that they have a G&F Chatelaine case. Another Chanel company, Chatelaine, Swiss-based, incredible cases. Absolutely awesome stuff. They make cases for many brands. There are very few companies that can work their own ceramic, and this is one of them. Absolutely fantastic stuff. This is top of the market ceramic you're getting with a Bell & Ross BR03 in ceramic. I have to say that the quality of what you're getting deserves to be advertised, but oftentimes in-house suppliers get somewhat subsumed. One thing I like, although they do sort of bury the fact that they have an incredible case maker, they actually list the caliber on the dial. So BR03, Bell & Ross 03 is the 42mm case that came out in 2007. 92 is the ETA 2892 or SW300 inside the case. So they actually tell you right on the dial what movement is inside the case. This is a really cool watch and actually wearable. I don't love the 46. I do love the 42. And
yeah. So I actually had one of the 42s back when, back when they were doing, it was like the heritage version. But the 42s for me, fit a lot better than the larger ones.
And if you've got that bigger wrist, they still have the 46. By the way, check out the X2 Sapphire Case Tourbillon. We actually had that one. I've got a video on the channel. 4-day power reserve, flying tourbillon, Sapphire Case, Bell & Ross. Yes, that's a thing.
Chanel owns a piece of Bell & Ross, don't they?
They own the whole thing.
They own the whole thing? Mm-hmm. Oh, wow, okay. Good to know. Awesome. So, guys, please keep the questions coming. This is a live show, and we're here to answer, all of your questions. Why don't we do the big boy on the table here? So, have to have a Patek on the show. This is a watch that I believe I've brought on in the past, but there's been changes in the market, which I wanted to talk about a little bit. And here we have a Patek 3970P 4th Series black stick dial. So, for those that don't know, this is the predecessor of the 5970, which is the predecessor of the 5270. It's got a smaller, a little bit of a smaller case, and it's got pump pushers as a square, as opposed to the squared off pushers that are integrated into the case. Tim, I am sure, will tell you a lot more about this watch. But what I think is so special is that in the last probably 3 to 6 months, I think that there's even been further appreciation of the Patek 5970P with the black dial. So it went from being a $100 and call it $75,000, $80,000 watch to at least a $200,000 watch. And I don't think that the market has caught on as much to these 3970s yet. And there's a big enough price disparity between the two that I really think that these 3970s offer a really good buy at the moment.
And I would say this is a 4th Series watch. It has the display case back screwed in. It has the dart style indices. It has the stick style hands. And on top of all of that, you're looking at a 4th Series when it comes with a factory clasp, because the first 3 series, including the 3rd Series that was almost identical to the 4th, all came with a pin buckle. So this is the full fat version of the 3970. You get a hefty watch for a timepiece that's only about 36.5 millimeters in diameter. With the full platinum case and the full platinum clasp, you wind up with a pretty hefty and satisfying machine. I'll also say that in-house calibers be damned. I want the old CH27. The 2770 in QP format is gorgeous, an enormous slow beat balance, column wheel, lateral clutch, and the reason you want a lateral clutch is so you can see it moving in and engaging, moving out and disengaging, and then enjoy the drop of the recentering hammers on the heart cams at center. Who needs a vertical clutch? Who needs an in-house caliber? This is gorgeous. An absolutely wonderful piece, because whereas the first of the 3970s have oftentimes been through multiple owners, multiple refinishings, and rough treatment.
This one's perfect.
Yeah, the 4th Series watches have pretty much occurred entirely in the era of the luxury watch as collectible, and people have generally known well enough not to try to refinish them or brutalize them. Leave it factory. Keep it in great condition. Don't wear it as a beater. These are truly special. Unfortunately, people have known that for the 4th Series watches.
And I actually saw somebody put this this watch on one of the 5065 older style Aquanaut straps with like an Aquanaut style bracelet, and the watch looked absolutely awesome. It was like you've got a dressy watch on like a sport type strap, and you wore it more casually, and it just it looked great.
I don't necessarily endorse the idea of a NATO strap, but a shell cordovan with maybe
the Aquanaut's the tropical.
Oh, we're not talking about the Aquanaut?
The Aquanaut tropical
Oh, sorry,
strap.
I thought we were talking about this watch. Okay, yeah, Aquanauts are fine. This watch, for God's sake, don't put it on a NATO. I would say Aquanaut tropical strap, that's cool. Aquanaut green strap, like Brian does, that's even cooler.
This is awesome.
By the way, there is a green dial Aquanaut out there. They made 12 of them.
This watch is amazing.
Get that one.
But yeah, you can't get the green straps anymore. I think that the green straps for Aquanauts now are selling for like $5,000 to $8,000. How crazy is that?
That makes the early rubberized leather panerized straps seem almost reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, it's, just, I'll tell you, I mean, Patek should really just, discontinue more straps more often.
Okay, question from Mark S. Tim, in general, would you prefer sapphire caseback or steel caseback? I know if the watch is any type of gold, you'd prefer solid. I say this, if you're giving me a precious metal watch and I'm paying a lot of money for it, I want to get both. Because the $30 sapphire is kind of a way of fooling people into thinking they're getting value. An ounce of gold is worth more. Believe me, you can get replacement sapphires for a few dozen bucks. Give me the solid caseback. If you're selling me a gold watch with a display, give me a solid caseback so I can swap it out. That's what Patek does with these platinum watches. And if you put the platinum caseback that comes with this watch on it with the clasp, it's a hefty little 36mm thing. I'll also say any ugly automatic movement where you've got an automatic bridge and a big bulky rotor, just give me a solid caseback with an interesting design on it. That's like the way of saying you're too dumb to realize we're showing you an ugly movement and you think it's great. I mean, companies that give you the sapphire caseback on stuff that should never see the light of day are insulting the collector. Like, just give it an honest, solid caseback. That's why Rolex still does solid casebacks. They realize even as their finish has improved substantially since the 2000s, it's still not something worth seeing.
And, ultimately, I think that the sapphire caseback was done by watch manufacturers because it almost denoted that it was an expensive watch, or it was something that the consumer started viewing as being upscale. No different than putting deployment buckles on watches. It was just sort of viewed that if you were buying an expensive watch, it should have a deployment buckle. So everybody would come and say, oh, is it on a deployment buckle? Even though sport watches should be on tang buckles, which is why AP moved the diver and the offshores back to being tang buckles, because diving watches really should be on tang buckles. But it's sort of similar to you said, it was something that was perceived as adding value. Sometimes, I do think it is necessary, and I think it's a great feature on the watch, but, sometimes it's just nice to have a solid case back.
And Mark, just to put a bow on that, you're asking me steel or sapphire, which do I prefer? Sapphire on a movement that's worth seeing, or let's put it this way, a good-looking movement, give me the sapphire. A workman like ETA or Rolex 3135, give me the steel case back. And it's worth mentioning, a solid caseback is usually thinner than a display caseback.
So I think I said deployant as opposed to deployment, and I'm probably going to get picked on in the follow-up chat to the video. So for all of you guys that are watching this video after it's live, I thank you for the criticism.
I tell you what, if you buy this $100,000 JLC, we don't care what you call it. It's got a deployment strap if you want. If you want to pay the price, it's a deployment strap.
If I say deployant enough times, it'll just be gospel.
Deployant is correct.
Yeah.
Deployant. It is not English. Yeah. So also,
if Hodinkee started calling it deployant, it'd be deployant.
Yeah. Don't get me started.
So anyways, moving right along, I think we have two more watches on the table. One is a beautiful watch that we've definitely, again, brought on before. I don't think I brought it on, but it's a beautiful watch that has quickly dried up out of the market, and it is the Seiko Presage with the blue enamel dial. So tonight, all about enamel dials. Here we have a beautifully executed watch. I believe it was a retail under $2,000, and as everybody should know by now, we're big fanboys of what Seiko and Grand Seiko are doing, and this watch is no exception. It's a beautifully executed piece, blue enamel dial, unbelievable price point, and I think that this is really a testament to when a brand wants to give you an incredible watch at incredible value, this is what comes of it.
There's a couple of things that I really appreciate here. First, doing a blue enamel dial for $2,000, that's crazy. So I totally approve. I also love the use of both a palm style hand for the hour and a foy style hand for the minute, and the gorgeous yellow lunette-style counterweight to the seconds hand. But there's more. There's more. Stylized Romans, and then these gorgeous vanilla-colored off-white hands for contrast, and a railroad seconds track outboard of the hour track with small differential indices. You can see how at the four corners they're this diamond design, and they're a stick index outboard of the standard hours. And here's a case where I will say, you know, display case back not necessary. This is, someone was asking, when do I prefer a display case back? Okay, maybe it's kind of novel that I can see it, but this is the kind of finish that would make a Soviet steel mill proud. It's a very tough and accurate movement. Do I need to see it? No, I'd rather have some sort of fun commemorative design on the case back of this 1,500 piece limited edition. It's 100 meters water resistant too, so you could actually throw this. We were talking about dressing a watch down on a strap. You throw this on a water-resistant band, 100 meters is absolutely sufficient for going in the water. You know, I wouldn't dive with it, but you can absolutely swim in the pool or at the beach with 100 meters. Now, another element that I really like is that they give you a deployant clasp. And you can see it's a trigger-style release.
Deployant or deployment?
Deployant. Deployant.
Oh, so I said it wrong again.
It's okay. It's like silicon and silicone. People
Tomato,
mix
tomato.
them up all the time. Silicone is a breast implant. Silicon is a Patek Philippe escapement. And right here you can see that they give you that full they give you that full deployant clasp, and it's absolutely incredible that you get that, a manufacturer movement, and an enamel dial on a watch that costs $2,000. A wonderful piece, and I was going to do a versus comparison with this, but I couldn't find anything to compare it to. It's sort of one of one. Or it's one of 1,500 and in a class by itself.
Beautiful. So, should we finish with the Devon? Because it's been ticking the whole time and it's driving me crazy.
We may as well, guys. Okay, so you know I was having fun with the Devon Tread 1 the other day, and I was wearing this Tread 2 just yesterday on Watches Live. Right here you can see it's in constant seconds mode, and it's 6. We'll turn off constant seconds mode. Now you can see it is 6:37, and it jumps every minute. It's also a chronograph, and you can put it into chronograph mode just like that. And now 12 represents 0. You push the button to start the chronograph, and now you have scrolling seconds. And yes, it's true, you can only time a 12-minute interval because it will run up to 12 and then roll over again. To stop it, you press the button again, you push the trigger down to reset it, and to put it back in time mode, you push the trigger up. 7 to 14-day power reserve, inductive charging lithium polymer battery, belts, motors, optical sensors, thermocompensated quartz caliber to keep everything on track. And you can put it into stealth mode and just turn it off entirely, and it can sit for a month that way. And now it gives you a power reserve between 1 and 0. So you can see right now it's at about 70% charge. I actually like this a lot. This is the Tread 2 Nightmare, made in California.
What I love about this watch is, you know, in this day and age, you really don't need a watch ultimately to tell time. It's more of a want than a need at this point. And, you know, as we've always said on the show, you know, a watch really needs to be something that if you see it from across the room, A, you can recognize it, but B, it's almost a conversation piece. And I think that Devon produces a watch that is absolutely a conversation piece. And it's a watch that I don't care, you know, if the person likes watches, doesn't like watches, you know, when you see this thing on somebody's wrist, you're asking about it. And, you know, it's the kind of watch that you can take off, you know, show them the ins and outs of it. And, you know, anybody that sees this watch is definitely leaving, you know, impressed.
I'm also going to say this is a watch that makes people smile, whether they're into watches or not. And for me, that's kind of the acid test of, is this watch cool? Hell yeah. If it makes people smile unprompted, apropos of no prior knowledge, that passes my test. I absolutely love this watch. And I actually think the Motown Nights version is the coolest watch that Devon makes.
Awesome. So I am getting the cue that is all that we have for tonight. So guys, please, as always, you know, email us, text us, call Tim, any suggestions for the show, questions that you guys want answered, you know, we're here to help. And, you know, anything that you want to see in advance, you know, we'd love to bring it on, talk about it, because, you know, we do this for you. And, you know, helps us bring cool and interesting things to see. So my name is Brian.
I'm Tim.
And thank you guys for logging on tonight.